Come with me if you want to list.
Folks, welcome to another edition of Real Estate Experts. As always, I'm your host, Glenn Twiddle, bringing you leading experts from around the country and around the world to help you traverse the minefield that is the Australian real estate landscape. And today, I'm interviewing multiple author, hired gun negotiator. What this bloke doesn't know about property and business, for that matter, does not need to be known. I'm talking about Lee Sutherland. So Lee, mate, thanks so much for catching up, bud.
Thanks for having me, Glenn.
Mate, I tell you, there are very few people that have bought properties since they were a late teenager, hold a bachelor's degree in business, multiple business owner. Mate, you've been and seen and done it all. Tell us about that life up until now. Multiple author, and by the way, before we get to it, author of multiple books, The Ultimate Home Seller's Guide, and a new release book that I saw on Amazon, Sold, co-written with Justin there. So mate, tell us about that whirlwind of a business and life and success journey.
Well, Glenn, it all started when I was brought up on a 40,000 acre sheep and cattle property in Richmond.
Wow.
Not Richmond, Victoria,
Yeah,
Melbourne,
no, that's North Queensland, isn't it?
North Queensland,
Wow.
northwest Queensland, so
Yeah.
halfway between Mount Isa and Townsville. So I'm a country boy at heart. So I absolutely love the lifestyle out there. I used to play in the dirt and the gullies and the creeks and that out there, and we used to come across fossils and that sort of thing in the creeks. I never thought anything about it, but now obviously that area, Richmond and Winton, is the fossil capital of the world. The old picture theatre I used to go to with the canvas seats. You probably remember those sorts of things.
For sure, yeah. The Coolum Theatre was my local with the canvas seats.
Yeah, it's had the canvas seats. It's now the dinosaur museum in the area.
Wow.
So I had a country upbringing to start off with. Went on to university and did a Bachelor of Business in Accounting and Computing. I've started and built and sold businesses in 4 different industries. The hospitality industry, publishing industry, online businesses, and now real estate. So I've done all those. And as you say, I bought my first property when I was 18, which was an interesting experience. My first experience with dealing with real estate agents from the buyer's point of view. So I've been exposed to a lot in business and real estate over my career.
For sure. And having bought a property so, I suppose, young and naive, like we all were at that age, but then, with a couple of decades of experience in transacting properties on both sides of that equation, tell us about some of the things you've learned about how to spot a great agent that can really serve a seller versus a not-so that can't, because then on the opposite side of the coin, when we're in investors mode, we want the opposite of that, to buy well. So tell us about what you've learned to sort out the good from the not-so.
Well, I think the biggest lesson I learnt from that very first transaction was I was 18 years old. When I went into agencies, they did not treat me with any sort of respect or whatever. They just thought I was a tyre kicker. So the first 4 agencies I went into didn't even really want to know about me or whatever, wouldn't give me information on properties for sale. The 5th one I went into took me aside, put me in the car, started driving me around and treated me with a little bit more respect, I suppose, and ended up buying property from that particular agent. So that lesson I learnt very early was, as a real estate agent, don't judge a buyer. Don't think just because a buyer is rocking up in thongs and stubbies that they're not going to buy, because they could be a millionaire that's going to buy $1 million property. So don't judge your buyers is probably the biggest thing I learnt back then.
Well, and especially in your neck of the woods, you're very dominant and help so many people up on the Sunshine Coast. I'm assuming that lesson is serving you very well there, because the Sunshine Coast lifestyle might not always lend itself to the millionaire turning up in a jacket or something. Have you found some of that to be the case?
Absolutely, and
tell us about some of the more outlandish ones.
Well, we at an auction of a property which was on the river, had river views, etc. This guy turned up in this beat up old Commodore, got out, and he was actually in stubbies and thongs. Anyway, registered to bid at the auction, and when I started calling the auction, he started bidding, and it turned out he was actually a millionaire, and so he was bidding at the auction. So
wow, so don't let the stubbies fool you, folks. Yeah, nice. So you seem to have developed such an ability to work with such a variety of people, from the suit-wearing professionals to the Speedo or stubby-wearing ockers, maybe like myself, and everywhere in between. How's the Sunshine Coast market kind of different from maybe some of the other regional capitals and things that we might find around Australia?
Oh, I think they're all probably fairly similar in what goes on, but they're just at different stages of cycles, etc. But it's a bit more relaxed up there. We don't necessarily have a lot of people that present themselves in suits or whatever. It's a lot more casual. We get a lot of southern buyers that are up there on holidays, so they might be in very casual clothes, or you know, sometimes they're dropping into the agency in their swimmers and towel over their shoulder because they've literally seen the property in the window or something like that, and they want to have a look. So we've actually sold a lot of properties that way. So yeah, it's a very casual market compared to others, I think.
Yeah, that's how I bought up in the hinterland of Caloundra, up in your neck of the woods, a little bit south, but up in your neck of the woods. I was there visiting Caloundra and I fell in love with it, and I started looking around. I found amazing investment opportunities and ended up being a resident there for a decade. So yeah, no, lovely. So what did you find in that journey that led you to write not one but multiple copies of the books? And what are some of the highlights that are in there? And by the way, thank you for giving our viewers a copy of the new release, Sold.
My pleasure.
What are some of the highlights in there, and what led you to write them?
Well, what I found, Glenn, was when I was sitting down to talk to my prospective sellers, that a lot of them really didn't know a lot about how to go about selling a property. It might have only been once or twice in their lives that they'd sold it. It could have been 10 or 15 years since they'd sold a property, and everything has changed so dramatically in recent times in our industry. So I thought that I needed to write a book to, you know, put it out in a plan to show people what they need to do to get their property sold quickly and for top dollar. So that was the reason why, was really to give my sellers and prospective sellers and other people in the market, property owners, how they can go about selling the property quickly for top dollar.
Yeah, and you co-authored with your business partner Justin your second book there, and he works with you as well. Tell us how you guys work as a team and what that adds to serving your clients and sellers and things, and how maybe our viewers should be on the lookout perhaps for a team with complementary skill sets.
Yeah, well, I think that the key word there is team. You know, we can't do everything ourselves in this industry. It is a very complex industry. So having people in our team, and Justin's a big part of that. So he's good at doing certain things that I'm not good at. I recognise what I'm good at, and there's things I'm not good at. So he jumps in and does those things that I'm not good at. So as a team, we work together well. But you know, we've got a lot of other people on our team as well. It's not just us.
Yeah,
we've got a large team. So
for sure. Well, should we be wary of the agent then that is trying to wear all hats, and in today's market that where so much is needed to be done to get those premium prices that you're priding your client successes on? Should we be wary of that solo agent playing it as an individual?
Yeah, absolutely, Glenn. We get this all the time. You know, a very simple example is that when we're calling our buyers back that have been through our open homes, when we're calling them back, they'll say, well, this is interesting. I went through 8 open homes on the weekend. You're the only agent that has actually called me back since the weekend. So that's a clear indication of someone who can't handle everything that's going on. It's a very big workload when you're trying to service your clients and your buyers and your sellers in this industry. So you can't do it all yourself. So yeah.
Are the stats that bad? Like,
absolutely.
What would be the average follow-up that you would consider reasonable? Because surely, okay, let's just assume that 0 follow-up is a non-negotiable. That say our viewers were out there checking out agents in the marketplace, visiting some open homes. What should they be on the lookout for in terms of follow-up, or any other factors that you might add, so that our folks can find the Lee Sutherland team of their marketplace, maybe down in Sydney or Melbourne?
Yeah, good question, Glenn. I think the biggest thing is to recognise that buyers are all different in the way that they communicate and how they receive communications and how they want to communicate. So you've got to use multiple ways of communicating, so phone calls, text messages, emails. You need to use all those different points of communication so that the buyers will communicate with you. I've had examples where we'll ring a buyer and they won't answer their phones. I hang up from them, I send them a text message, and they will respond instantly.
I'm smiling because that's me, man. I tell you, we are in such a busy world. It's like my own mum will call me, and I hope mum's not watching, and I'll just go, Mum, not now, I'm busy, but I'll text her. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. See you soon, Mum. Yeah. Aren't we a weird creature?
We are. So your agent needs to be using multiple forms of communicating with buyers and actually doing it. Yeah.
What's too much though? Because I tell you, if I visit an open, I don't want to be bombarded and feel like I've got a new family member stalking me. So where's that sweet spot?
Well, I think the sweet spot is you need to get the feedback from the buyer. You want to talk to the buyer to find out what they thought about the property so you can give your seller some feedback. Do they have any interest? If they do have a bit of interest, to try and get that initial offer and get that down on paper so you can start a negotiation. So I think every situation is different. You know, some people you might only have to ring them once. Others you might need to ring back 2 or 3 times. So yeah.
Or like you say, the text or the email.
Exactly.
Find their media
Exactly.
that they want to kind of communicate with.
And make them feel comfortable with your communication. Like we send out a buyer's guide, for example, in some of our early communications with a buyer. So
to help them buy well.
Yeah, so we're giving them information to help them. So, you know, if we do then ring them or text them, then they're just not automatically ignoring us. They want to talk to us.
Inspired by, I'm assuming, you know, some time ago, when you were mistreated without a buyer's guide.
Absolutely.
Now you're looking after buyers in a way that you never were.
Absolutely.
Wow, nice,
Yeah.
mate. So I noticed as I was doing some research, I saw your stuff on Amazon. I found some of the success stories that you've had. I saw some of your sellers singing your praises. Saw you all over Facebook. My goodness, I visited Sunshine Coast. All I see is Lee Sutherland popping up on my phone. But I found this thing that you mentioned called an A-lister. What's that?
Well, actually, I'm very humbled, and this award is for well, it's called the A-listers in Queensland. So it's the top 150 agents out of 16,500 agents in Queensland.
Wow. Okay.
It's the only award in the industry that you can't nominate yourself for,
Okay, all the rest are.
or your peers can't nominate you for.
Ah. Okay.
So it's actually all done by an external company that simply looks at results.
Wow.
So
okay.
they're looking at results and what's been achieved and what's happened, looking at a whole heap of different things like how many you've listed, how many you've sold, the number you've sold, the prices you've achieved. So it's an interesting award, but one I'm very humbled with because you can't nominate for it. So
Yeah. Wow. So I just looking at the maths. That's the top, whatever that is, 1% or 0.1% or something.
Yeah, it's about the top 1%.
Yeah, it's the
agents,
best
so.
of the. Yeah. So congratulations, man,
Thank
and
you.
that's good because you're right. We are an industry where everyone will be saying they can get the highest price and in the fastest time frame, whatever it is. They can't all be telling the truth. They can't be.
Or they're getting awards that they self-nominate for or whatever, and the awards don't really mean anything at all.
Yeah,
So you
okay.
just need to be wary of that. So,
Yeah. What else can we be on the lookout for then at our home open? Say we do what you're suggesting. We go to a home open, we check out the agents, we see what sort of follow-up they're doing. What should we be on the lookout for while we're there? Maybe in terms of marketing or, you know, the flyers and the brochures. How often they pop up on the Facebook? Because I tell you, I was on the Sunshine Coast and I kept seeing your stuff pop up on my phone. What should we be looking for to find those agents that are the A-listers, say, in Melbourne or Sydney or whatever the case may be?
Well, I think the first thing is, are they taking your details before you're coming into the home? Are they taking your name and phone number or email or whatever they're asking for? I've been to open homes myself, and I'm astounded at how many agents don't even get contact details, so they can't follow you up.
Yeah, so they couldn't follow up if they wanted to.
Exactly.
If they're not, wow, okay.
Yeah, so that's very important. Are they taking that to start off with? You know, have they got professional brochures to give to you? You know, are they leaving you alone and giving you a bit of space to have a look around the property and that sort of thing? And how are they communicating with you and making you feel comfortable? And are they talking to you at all? I've been to some open homes where the agents sit in the corner playing on their mobile phones the whole time and don't even acknowledge you when you come in. I was absolutely flabbergasted at that one.
As am I.
Yeah, so
God.
yeah, those sorts of things.
Wow, okay, well, clearly all agents aren't created equal. Now, actually, this is a bit of a weird question, but for our investors who watch the show, which they do, should we be looking for the opposite of A-listers if we want to buy at bargain prices? Because you've bought a whole bunch of properties. How do you buy well if you want to kind of get a bargain?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right, Glenn. So they don't want to be buying through someone like me. You know, you sell your property through me, but you don't buy your property through me.
I love it, mate. Yeah.
So yeah, they need to find those agents that are sitting there playing on their phones in the corner and aren't following them up, and they can probably go and make a really low offer, and they might get that accepted because the agents don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I've heard some investors on this show talk about playing that, whether you call it arbitrage, whatever you want to call it, sell through a Lee, buy through a not so. And if that differential is plus or minus 10% each transaction, a couple of transactions a year, you can make a living out of doing nothing but buying through a dud And selling through a gun, buying through a dud. I mean, it's being disrespectful.
And I've actually had sellers say that to me,
Wow.
who are investors in the area. They will say, we always go to this agency to try and buy through them
Wow.
because we know that they always sell below market price. They're not working for their sellers, which they should be doing, but we won't come and buy through you, for example, because we know we're not going to get a good deal if we buy through you, that you're going to push us all the way on the price.
Tell me how that factors in, because you're known as a negotiation specialist. How does that factor in when it's the family home for an owner-occupier versus an investor? Do you find a different mindseted buyer in situation A versus B?
Yeah, absolutely. Your investor's more about the figures. Does it work? Is the return there for me? So the emotion and that sort of thing's not there. It's all about the figures, where somebody who's buying it as their own home, there's a lot more emotion involved. You know, they come in and they like the property and they can see themselves there and they don't want to miss out on it. So that's the ideal buyer that you can then push, you know, for getting the high price and selling it for above market. And you know, I had an example where we had a property that we had 15 people through the open home, 4 offers came in, 3 of the offers were around about what we thought the property was worth. The 4th one was $50,000 above that, and I actually asked the people, which I do with all my offers, how did you come up with that price? And they said, well, we've been looking in this area for some time. Our family lives in the area. We didn't want to miss out on this. We want to make this our family home, so we put the offer at that price. And they even said, we know we're paying above market price,
Wow.
but we don't want to miss out. So that's where the emotion, that emotional buyer comes in.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So these skills didn't come just by random chance, that you've articulated your words to encourage that sort of thing and get that extra 50,000.
Yeah.
Tell me, what difference did that extra 50 make to your seller, who you represent?
Yeah, no, it made a big difference to them. They use that money to then go on a holiday overseas. So yeah, they weren't expecting it, so it was a bit of extra cash for them. So it made a big difference.
Well, I've seen the videos of your sellers and, you know, your clients singing your praises. So no doubt, because most Aussies don't end up with $50,000 bonus checks in their day-to-day pay. So very nice, mate. I mentioned it before, and I do want to pick your brains about social media and how that's added and changed the real estate landscape. Even, you know, you're extremely experienced with many years of doing this. How has Facebook come into play? Because I've noticed you're very dominant there. You're all over it.
Yeah, well, it's massive in our industry now. It's been a real game changer. Everybody's on Facebook now. You know,
Consumers or agents? Because I don't see agents everywhere, but I see me living on the stupid thing.
I see agents on there, Glenn, but they have no idea what they're doing. You know, I came across one the other day. I was talking to a seller who's been on the market for over 90 days now and hasn't sold, was getting quite frustrated, and they rang me and asked me to come in and talk to them. And they said, I asked them, had they done any Facebook marketing? They said, yeah, our agent's done that for us. So I said, okay, well, let's have a look at what they'd done. And when I looked it up, they'd had 3 people like their post, and I had a look at who those 3 people were, and one was the agency, one was someone with the same last name as the person who owned the agency, and the third one was the seller's sister, because the seller said, oh, that's my sister. So they'd reached 3 people
and
in
so
the
no
whole
one had
thing.
seen it.
Yeah, so then I brought up one of our recent listings that had only been on the internet for 2 days, and it had 1,500 people look at it. And I said, this is what marketing on Facebook is all about.
So all marketing isn't created
No, it's
equal.
not. Agents say they're doing Facebook marketing, but they have no idea what they're doing. So Facebook is a beast in itself, and it is something that you need to be continually educating yourself on. So we are constantly educating ourselves and with the latest trends and different tactics and techniques to use to maximise the return on Facebook. So, you know, it's something that you do need to be kept up to speed with how it works to get the best result for your client.
Yeah, agreed. And it's been great sort of, you know, having a mastermind group with yourself and kind of sharing and learning myself as well, and us together, me learning from you, us learning from our mutual friends, you know, some of the people we've had in our mastermind group, the Richard Bransons of this world, the Gary Vaynerchuks and stuff, Mark Burris. So it's been great. So no, excellent, mate. And credit to you for doing so well in that space. So it was in one of your books, because I read them both before you got here, where you were talking about the term buying the listing, and it's come up a few times on these very tables. What is that, and why are home sellers perhaps vulnerable to a little real estate agent trick, so to speak?
Yeah, I think this is probably my biggest hate of our industry, Glenn. It's agents who buy the listings. So what it's about is it's agents that don't have any skills in being able to demonstrate to a seller how they can get the best price for their property. So they're going into their sellers and they're saying that it might be worth a $500,000 house, for example, that might be market value, and they're going and saying, well, we can sell it for $600,000. Hoping the seller will pick them, because every seller wants to get the maximum they can. So they're overpricing the property so that they can then beat the hell out of the seller later on once they've got it listed, to get it down to a sellable price. So you want to be avoiding those people. I had a client recently that I appraised their property and thought it was in the mid 600 range, gave them all the evidence of why it was in that range. And that's an interesting example, because someone who is trying to buy the listing will not have any evidence of that higher price. They just will not be able to produce.
So they'll just pick it.
They'll just pick a figure to try and get the listing. But this seller decided to go with that agency, who told them it was worth $865,000.
Wow.
So they
200,000 or above.
But worse than that, Glenn, the agency that quoted that brought their 8 salespeople through to have a look at the property, and at the end of it, they all got together and said to the client, it's worth $865,000. And I said to the client, well, what evidence did they give? And his exact response was, well, nothing. That was their opinion. I said, well, that's the problem. They gave you no evidence of where it's at. Anyway, cut a long story short, 8 months later, 4 agencies later, an auction campaign later, $8,500 in marketing later,
The sellers had spent.
The sellers had spent. The seller rang me and he said, I think you better come back and have a talk to us again.
I think you better.
So we went back to him, had a chat to him, and took the property on, did some amazing stuff with staging the property and marketing the property, and had it sold in 3 weeks for $655,000. So,
Exactly
which
where
they
you
were
said it.
ecstatic about, because they were so sick physically from the 8 months of stress. It was manifesting itself in sickness, and they were an elderly couple going into retirement, and they were just ecstatic about the result.
As you were saying that, I was sitting there in the early stages of you telling that story. I was sitting there going, is there any chance that it was naive optimism that led to that? But if there was 8 of them saying it, we know that must be a strategy. That must be a tactic, we can't even give them the benefit of the doubt. That say maybe it was just ignorance.
Yeah, no, it's a tactic that the agency used to win that listing.
Yeah. So guys, you need to be aware of this and find the Lee Sutherlands of your area and not fall for this sort of thing. So, find someone who's going to stage it. Like, grab a copy of this book. Lee goes into great detail on staging homes, choosing agents, finding that right agent, and making those simple tips that will add tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to your back pocket, and save you from that sort of heartache. So you mentioned staging in the books and stuff. Are there any tips you can give us on preparing homes for sale, particularly with regards to things like furnishings and staging and stuff like that?
No, it's a very, very big thing in our industry, and I've gone into it in quite detail in both books, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
But you only get one chance at impressing a buyer when they're looking at the property. So if it's not presented properly, you can lose the buyer straight up. So staging or getting a property presenting correctly is just critical these days.
Okay.
Lots of agents say they do staging, but
Not
no,
all staging is created
not
equal.
all staging is created equal. If I was a seller, I'd be asking them show me the before and after shots of properties that you've done, and they should be able to produce books full of them to show you, and stories about how that has changed, because it can make up to a $50,000 difference to the the end sale price. So, and that could cost you as little as nothing, or it could cost you $2,000 or $3,000, maybe $6,000 to stage if you're going to do it. But there is varying ways that we can do that. We stage a lot of properties for our clients, which we do free of charge for our clients. So it makes a big difference. So that presentation is critical, and it could be as simple as moving furniture around. Decluttering is a massive one, and just having it looking more like a show home. If you can do that, I know a lot of people still need to live in their homes, but making it look more like a show home to maximise that dollar. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. So similarly, just like all marketing isn't created equal, like you mentioned before, it seems like we can't just believe anything, that we want evidence on everything. Yeah. Show me,
Exactly.
as opposed to just tell me.
Exactly. Yeah. You need the evidence. Yeah.
Mate, I had some people ask me from the audience about the cost of transacting a property. Some agents seem to be literally a year's wages or more. Some agents seem to be doing it for free, and everywhere in between. And then you've got the marketing as another variable. How do our viewers kind of tread the minefield of the cost of transacting on a property?
Yeah, I think the agents commission, I think, is a really good point at present. There's a lot of what I call discount agents out there, Glenn, that are just dropping their commissions to secure a listing.
Yeah.
But that can be a really fraught with danger type agent. I had somebody recently that had a complex who had sold multiple properties in. This particular seller decided to choose a discount agent. They saved $5,000 by choosing a discount agent. The agent sold it within a week, which is another reason why you don't go with discount agents, because they're all about turnover. They've got to get sold. They can't give the service that's required. Sold it within a week. We then saw what he sold it for. $50,000 below market price, because we knew the complex intimately with the multiple sales we'd done in there. So the seller had saved $5,000 in commission, had lost $50,000 in the sale price, so they were $45,000 out of pocket by going with a discount agent. So you know, we're not the most expensive in the industry, we're not the cheapest in the industry, but we believe our fee is a fair fee.
Yeah, we've got to make sure you're getting value for that, because that $5K difference was it was an expensive discount, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Let me know, because I've seen some hybrid kind of agents where it's a very nominal fee, you know, sometimes $1,000, perhaps even a percentage of that, maybe even less, but the seller does a whole lot of the buyer running. You know, in the case of the discount one, I probably should have went with that sort of service. How does that sort of service, or maybe lack thereof, fit in with your sort of advice?
Yeah, I think you need to avoid that situation altogether. If that's the sort of service you're getting, you may as well just sell it yourself and save the selling commission altogether. No, those sort of agencies you don't want to be dealing with. You want someone that's professional, that knows how to go about the whole, you know, presentation of the property, marketing of the property. They've got runs on the board. They've got the social media, you know, stuff handled. They've got video testimonials, Glenn. Like, there's so many people that can produce a written testimonial, but is it really true? Is it just been done up? So, you know, ask for video testimonials. You know, they don't lie when you sit down and look at
I've seen some of those people. I see genuine emotion in those people. So you can't have faked that.
Yeah, and marketing's another thing. You know, all marketing, as you said earlier, is not equal. There's plenty of agents giving free marketing, which is really not worth anything when you look at it. But you know, your marketing has to be constructed in a way to create more interest in the property, get more people through. So you're creating that competition to get that premium price. So, you know, investing $2,000, $3,000 in marketing could mean an extra $20,000 or $30,000 in the end. So just be wary of those free marketing type agents as well.
Or 45 in the case of the example you gave.
Exactly.
So, no, certainly in these changing markets, it's more important than ever before to do more research than our viewers and our consumers, and me as well, has ever done before. So to find that 1 out of 10 agents that can walk their talk as opposed to just talking it. So Lee Sutherland, it's been my honour catching up with you. I know it's, you know, we both live in Queensland, and yet we're all the way down here in Melbourne before we got to catch up. So it's been great to spend some time with you both here and in our mastermind group, where we share some time with some of the world's greats, and we learn from and teach all of us together. And it's been great spending some time here today in the studio, mate.
Thanks.